So how do we go from this to this? What do you think? Big difference, isn't it? Are you going to be on a podcast? Or maybe you want to start your own podcast? Well, there are some secrets about how to look and sound your very best. Hi, I'm Adam Contos, and I have a podcast called Start With a Win. I've been on a lot of podcasts, and I've had a lot of people on my podcast. A lot of them have not looked all that great. Even through the magic of editing, we've been able to really fix up the sound, fix up the shot, things like that. But ultimately, there's only so much you can do. I want to tell you in this video how you can look and sound your very best when you're on somebody else's podcast. It does matter. It will help your business, and you should have your own podcast. But before we get started with the good stuff, let's go to the worst possible setup that I see all the time when it comes to being on a podcast. A lot of people show up on the podcast where the sound is echoey, like what you see here, and the shot is horrible, like what you see here. This does not do your professionalism or your business any service. So let's start fixing some of these things. The first thing we're going to do is adjust this camera angle. So if you look at all this headspace, we want to pull down the headspace here. So at least we are framed properly. We have a little bit of headspace between where we're at and the top of the screen, but this still doesn't look good because I'm kind of looking downward at the lens. So I do have something to fix here. I have a laptop stand, Amazon laptop stand. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the laptop on the laptop stand. Here we go. Now, as you can see, the laptop is at eye level. The camera actually is right straight out from my eyes. This makes a big difference in the angle of the shot. Be thinking about this because you don't want to be looking up at the camera and you don't want to be looking down at the camera. But there's also some things wrong with this. The sound, it still echoes. I don't care who you are, you can't fix this sound. It is not going to sound high quality. The number one reason, as I mentioned before, that people turn off a podcast is because it sounds bad. This one does not sound good at all. So let's add a microphone to this. This is a $100 microphone. It's on a little tripod also. You have to order these separately. This is actually called the Samson Q9U. As you can see here, it is a USB microphone. You can also plug it into a mixer board here that we use in the studio, but ultimately this is all you need is a USB microphone. Let's plug this in and see how it sounds. So now we are hooked up to the Samson Q9U. This is a great microphone. It even has a mute button right here. If I'm talking and I can push that button and it goes away, as you can tell. So ultimately, we've just accomplished a great deal of improvements between changing how we look on the camera as well as how we sound here. But this still does not look very good because we're backlit really, really heavily, and it's a very foggy look. So we're going to continue to improve this shot. We're going to add some lighting and a camera. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some lighting to bring out my face a little bit more. These are the cheapest things. So the cheapest improvement that I can make right now is the laptop stand. The second would be the Samson Q9U. The third is a light. So let's add a light right now. So as you can see, I'm much better lit now, and it actually brings out my face with the camera on the MacBook. This is a M2 MacBook Pro. So this is the latest and greatest Apple has to offer with the camera and the processor here. But ultimately, this is a great shot for a podcast. I have what's called a softbox light. You can see on the B-roll here that I'm showing you. This diffuser and this box up here kind of breaks up the light, so it's a lot more even on my face. And I just simply have this light in my office so I can do podcasts. What's better than this, though, to fully build out this podcast studio at my desk like most everybody will be using? And frankly, I've spent hundreds of podcasts on sitting at a desk. So let's add a camera to this. Let's add a camera right now. Well, now we're on camera. So what we've added is about an $800 camera. This is called the Sony ZV-E10. This is the preferred camera of a lot of YouTubers and vloggers, which is video blogging. And the reason for that is this camera plugs directly from the USB port in the camera. It's a USB-C port, just like your iPad might plug into or your computer devices. And it plugs directly into my MacBook, and it just recognizes it as a webcam. So you can functionally go in and manually set different settings in this camera. So now you can see when I touch my desk, the camera doesn't move. It's sitting on a tripod away from my desk. So I'm not bumping the camera. We have a good microphone, great shot of the camera, good eye level, and we have a light, a single light lighting us up. This is a very good quality podcast interview setup. You can see it's respectable of your brand. It makes you look good. It makes you sound good, and it delivers really well. Wow, that was a lot, but really it wasn't. So as you can see, there are 3 levels of podcasting. There's level 1, which is just your laptop, bad headspace, bad shot, bad background. Nothing is in place there. It does not do you any service to look or sound that way. In fact, a lot of people will just turn off that particular podcast. Then there's level 2, where we added the Samsung Q9U, the Sony ZV-E10, and the Neewer softbox Lite. That was fantastic and very much acceptable in podcasting in this day and age. And then there's level 3, what you see here, which is studio quality, high quality lighting, sound, and video. The choice is yours how deep you want to get into this, but I would recommend against using just your laptop or even an iPhone or an iPad or any single device like that for podcasting if you really truly want to show up well. Remember a few tips in your podcast. Camera angle, good lighting from the front, not from behind you, and good sound. This doesn't have to be expensive, but it can look and sound really good. We'll see you on the next podcast, and thanks for starting with a win.
If you like this or any of my other leadership tips, make sure you subscribe to this channel and go to adamcontos.com/myleadership and download What's Wrong with Your Leadership.